Hi folks, you're with Tacitus Debate, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. I might start calling this a radio stream because it's sound only rather than pictures as well, or video. In this essay, I'd like to talk about something the World Health Organization is doing, and they're a sort of an offshoot or part, if you like, of the United Nations. The United Nations is very, very committed to the globalization project. So anything that the World Health Organization does, WHO, as it's known, anything they do is going to be part of the globalist project. So we just need to accept that as written and try and analyze what they're doing and why they're doing it from there. Now, they've put together what they say is a treaty, and I haven't read all of it, by the way, but the central sort of thrust of it is that the World Health Organization is getting various governments around the world, all of which are controlled by the globalists, by the way, various governments around the world to sign up for this, what they're calling a pandemic treaty. Now, what this is all these countries, once they sign it, are surrendering their sovereign political and administrative rights to decide if a pandemic is occurring, what the burden of evidence is needed before a pandemic can be declared, and indeed what should be the response to such a pandemic. So the World Health Organization wants the arbitrary and unilateral right to declare a pandemic, but to do so without any definition of what a pandemic is. So they have it's like an ideological assertion. You know, we say it's a pandemic. We don't have to prove it. We don't have to justify it. We don't have to produce evidence. We don't have to do anything. We just have to say it, and that's it. Once we say it, it then is a pandemic. Now, whenever laws get or an obligation to behave in a certain way, which is kind of tantamount to a law, whenever these are put forward and there's no definition, because any law that requires responsibility, behavior and action and so on from anybody, be it the government or indeed the citizenry, those laws should be clearly codified. So that the definition of what constitutes an epidemic or a pandemic must be clearly codified, and it must be there for all to see, an objective codification that can be examined in a court of law based on the facts. So that's what now that's not happening here. WHO is wanting to have the power to just arbitrarily, unilaterally declare a pandemic is in existence without a clear or precise or codified definition as to what constitutes a pandemic. The second thing that they're wanting is that, as I understand it, the second thing they're wanting is to have no burden of proof on the organisation. So the World Health Organization wants to meet no burden of proof to back up or support or underwrite their claim that a pandemic exists. So not only do they get to just declare a pandemic through asserting that it exists, they don't have to produce evidence. They have to say, well, a million people died, or this or that, or millions of people lost their heads. So, they don't have to make any sort of medical or threshold assessment of, well, once a million people die, or once 10 million people die, so some sort of threshold. Where once this threshold is achieved, that then becomes the evidence to support the fact that it's a pandemic, and this is clearly codified. So they don't say we can declare a pandemic exists without any evidence or support or any reason. We don't even have to give a reason. I mean, we don't have to invent one. We just have to say, and we don't have to back it up with any data or any claims of, well, look here, this is why we're doing it. So no justification. That's all been thrown out the window as well. The next thing they want is the capacity or the power to dictate what the response to the pandemic should be. So people locked in their homes, or locked underground or not allowed to go to work or this or that. They get the right to, so they claim to assert what the response should be, or determine what the response should be. So notice that they can act unilaterally and with all powers, but you can't question them. You're not allowed to look at data or facts. You can't question. They can do what they want, but you can't do anything in return. You cannot hold them accountable because there is no definition to what a pandemic is. So you can't take them to court and say, well, you guys fucked up. You declared a pandemic when there wasn't one. So they've obviously thought this through. Well, we want the power to act arbitrarily, unilaterally, and we want to be unaccountable. And this has got all the fingerprints of globalization, all the fuck over it. And that's something we should be very concerned about. Now, a lot of countries have some of them first world countries have signed up for it, and because there's an election coming up in Australia in a week or two, they haven't signed up for it yet. They probably don't want to run the risk of bad publicity, but I've no doubt that once the election's out the way, they'll sign up for this crap because the globalists will order them to do it. There's no sovereign governments left in the West anymore. They all take their orders directly from the globalists, and they'll be told to sign this, buddy, or you won't get your waterfront house with the yacht, or sign this, or you're going to find that your son's going to get caught with a 14-year-old having sex with a 14-year-old girl. It'll be on the front page. Is that what you want, Mr. Politician? Well, you damn well fucking sign this document then. Who wants this? We want it. We're the globalists. We order you. We tell you what to do. What do you think you actually represent the people? Here, you stupid little moron. You do what we tell you to do. That's on or about the conversation. So they'll sign it, and I have no doubt that they will. But we need to really look at this and let our politicians know for whatever it's worth, and as many media outlets as we can, because the media is not talking about it, which again, that's on globalist orders. Don't frighten the horses, don't say anything about this. Let's just quietly slip it through, and hopefully no one will notice. Again, very globalist. But that's something I think is a great concern. I'd be interested to see your comments below. I'm not even sure how we can stop it. Or just make sure that there's clear definitions even on the what constitutes a pandemic. Even that would be an achievement. But let's see how we go on that one. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.